Okay, we're live.
All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. I am Teacher Kelly, if you don't know me, and I work for VIPKID mostly, and I also work for GoGoKid and Cambly. I'm here today with Teacher Lexi. Hi, Lexi.
Hello.
And how are you?
I'm doing well. I had some cancellations today, so I got a little bit of a break. So that was amazing this morning.
Okay, so we are going to spend most of our time interviewing you. But first, for people who don't know, if anyone is new here, I always read the weekly reports from both VIPKID and GoGoKid every week on my live stream. So I'm still going to do that. Just so anyone who's new knows, if you have a question for me or for Lexi, please write in all caps or tag me, because a lot of people like to chat with each other in the chat box, which is fine. How are you? How are your classes? But if you write in all caps, then I know that you're talking to me and not talking to somebody else in the chat. And that helps me to find your question very quickly. So I usually start with the shortest weekly report first. So this week, that is GoGoKid. They have a really short weekly report. So the students look forward to seeing you in the classroom. So they're just letting you know that due to the holiday and the sicknesses, that students' vacations are being extended. And they're going to be booking more classes, and they're also going to be booking more non-PPT slots. So they want you to open your schedule. I actually had a very early class with GoGoKid today. Then the other thing, they have a new teacher boot camp. A come to the boot camp. It'll help you thrive. You could get GoGoKid swag. There'll be a Q&A. You could win a uni doll. Yeah, and then they have new GoGoKid wallpaper. So that is it. GoGoKid was very short. Lexi, if you want to say do you have anything to say about the GoGoKid weekly report?
No, I was just glad to hear you read it because I haven't read it yet this morning.
Yes, a lot of people say they like hearing me read because they don't always have time. Anyway, I also want to tell everybody that I am an independent contractor. I'm not a brand contributor or a brand ambassador for VIPKID or GoGoKid. I read the weekly reports as an independent contractor. If I give my opinion, it's my opinion only and has nothing to do with VIPKID or GoGoKid or anything. All right, so now I'm gonna read VIPKID's. Theirs is much longer. So they are celebrating February Black History Month. They want to encourage you to have conversations in the classroom about African Americans in history. They have things in the teacher portal that help you maybe spark the conversation. I don't know about you, Lexi, but when you teach level 5 and they're actually talking about that, I find would be the easiest time. It'd be harder to talk with the little, yeah, they have a whole unit about Martin Luther King and let's see, the Underground Railroad. Okay, and VIPKID also is concerned about their sick people in China. So VIPKID has donated 1.5 million online classes to students in China, and the priority is to students in the Wuhan, where most people are sick, and the children of medical workers, so that's good. I don't know if anyone's seen in the portal, but they have e-cards now that you can send to the children. I haven't sent one. I feel like I don't know, it could be a touchy subject. But here's some things that you or anybody could do. You could record a video to show love and support to the students. So they have pinned posts in the official Facebook group and the Hutong for more information. Just offer support and love through the videos. Donate face masks to students and their families. You send this to the California office. So in my description box later, I will leave the address to the California office. This goes for any of my videos. If I ever say I'm gonna leave something in the description box and I don't, just say something to me, remind me. I'm a busy person, so yes. they are encouraging N95 respirator masks, N100 respirator masks, and P100. Those are the ones that they prefer, but they'll accept any masks. And if you send them to San Francisco, they're going to send them to China. And then they talk about the e-card for your sick. Okay, so this was in the weekly report last week, so I'll be brief on this one. So VIPKID is partnering with United Ways, Velo. So they're gonna have a webinar about this today, February 4th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So tonight, if you wanna go to the webinar, they had spring raffle, winter. Okay, they have meetups coming up. I'm not gonna rattle off every single meetup, but there is a meetup in my area this weekend. So I'm looking forward to meeting some local teachers. If anyone in the chat has a meetup, post it, write about it to tell other teachers if you have one near you, in case anyone else is near you. Trending topics at VIPKID, they are responding to them. Reports of issues with the mute function in the classroom. Okay, luckily I haven't experienced that. Do you have any thoughts or opinions, Lexi, about the VIPKID weekly report?
No, I don't think so. I'm glad that they have an option to help the students and send the masks. So I've seen a lot of teachers asking about that on Facebook. So it's nice that they have given away that they can do that.
Yes, and then this wasn't officially in the weekly report, but I did get an email. I don't know if this is one that was sent to everyone, but they have a new trial workshop where you can learn the best tips and tricks about trials. So yeah, and they have sharing of a class playback. You can get 50 tokens for attending. I don't know if, again, if they sent this to everyone or just me. All right, so now we'll get into what we came here for, to interview Lexi. I have my iPad if I look like I'm looking down or not looking at people, because I'm going to be checking the chat box for any of your questions if you want to ask Lexi. Okay, and let me get that up and going. All right, so Lexi, oops, now I can hear myself. Okay, so Lexi, she has her own channel, Teacher Lexi, right? On YouTube. All right, so Lexi works for a lot of different companies. We'll get that in a minute. She is also a mom of 7 kids. What are the age ranges?
14 all the way down to 1.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
You have your hands full. Okay, yeah, I can imagine. My oldest is 15. Wow, the teenager and the toddlers.
Yes.
So you'll have to meet my friend Cindy, who usually comes to live. She is 13.
Wow,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So how long have you been an online teacher?
I have been teaching online for about 2.5 years.
Okay, so tell us all the companies you've ever worked for first. We'll start with that.
Okay, well, I started with VIPKID. That's where I've been the longest. That was the first place where I was hired. And after that, I wanted some different hours. So I actually found a company that had evening hours because you were teaching students in school in China. So that was called Orange Talk, and that company is actually no longer in existence. So I taught for them doing the group classes. And after that, I really enjoyed being able to branch out. So I looked at GoGoKid right when it was getting started, and I thought, well, I'll just apply and see if I like it better. And I was hired on at a slightly higher pay rate. And so that's when I thought, oh, I can really use my experience teaching online for these companies to get hired on at new companies at maybe a more competitive pay rate. So that kind of started me thinking about how to best use my time. So I was at GoGoKid, and then I was hired on at Native, which never got off the ground. Nothing ever happened. They were going to have students in like Japan and South America and all these other places. And their goal was to offer classes 24 hours a day so you could teach whenever you wanted. And I never taught a single class ever. So that one never took off. So I did work for them. Technically, I was hired. And then nothing happened there. I work for One-on-One English, which is in Vietnam. So I started working there. And then I also, around that same time, I added Open English, which is in South America. And then and I no longer work for them. And then after that, I applied to InKids, which is in Poland. And so now I'm hired with InKids. And I think that's all of them. And then I added Zebra English after InKids. So that's my newest one, which is in China still, but that's my newest company.
Okay, yes. So I've had people say that I work for a lot of ESL companies. You really work for a lot. So which ones are you working with right now? Like,
So right now I am hired with VIPKID, but I've kind of taken a step back. My bookings were kind of erratic, so I've just taken a bit of a break from them. So instead, I'm splitting my time between Zebra English and GoGoKid. So I teach alternating days. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, GoGo, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Zebra. And then every day I teach at one-on-one English because they offer that hour that you can't book in China anymore, but they shut down. So from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern, I teach in Vietnam every day. So I do that every day for one-on-one. And then in the afternoons, I have some slots open with InKids. So those are the ones where I'm teaching currently.
okay, good. All right. So I know we're going to focus more on the non-Chinese, but I just quickly did want to ask about Zebra. It is China-based. Does it have the same hours as VIPKID and GoGoKid?
Yeah, they offer the same hours and the policies are very similar to the VIPKID policies. Even their platform looks pretty similar.
Okay.
The only main difference is that they're an app-based program. And so they've had curriculum on the app for years. So they already have a huge student base. And now they're adding the live classes with the teacher. So while it seems like a new company, they've actually been around for years. And now they're adding the live classes, which is why they've started hiring a bunch of teachers because now they just added that component to their program.
Okay, so I'm going to ask probably what some people are thinking, but why would you add Zebra English when you have VIPKID and GoGoKid as China already with the same hours?
Well, I just decided to apply to see what my pay rate would be because if I can work less hours for more money, that would be awesome. And so I was hired on at a more competitive rate than what VIPKID was offering. Also, with the changes with GoGoKid, I'm sure you've talked about the pay scale. It's so confusing. So I wasn't sure how I would feel once I got on the new contract to see what happened to my pay. So I kind of wanted a backup plan in case I wanted to step back from GoGo. So that was another reason. And then I was talking with a teacher who teaches for Zebra, and you don't have to use props or a reward system. And that was really appealing. You just use the Zebra coins in the platform. So it's just a lot simpler and easier to teach for. So I feel like my prep time is a lot shorter. So I was definitely looking for something that would kind of cut down on my prep time. So that's why I tried it.
Okay. Well, you said it wasn't new, but they're kind of new to the online teacher. I know with new companies, because I've taught with new companies, there's some disadvantage. Do they have some like growing pains, kinks to work out from being a new company?
Yeah, they definitely do, but they already have a platform. It already has, the automatic payment updates. They have a scheduling system. The system actually does a lot of the bookings, so it spreads out the bookings between teachers. So even though I'm new with them, I've only been with them for a little over a month. I already get pretty decent bookings. So I was getting bookings right away. But yes, and they just added the referral stuff for referring teachers. They're still kind of working out some of those kinks as they grow. But so far, they've had pretty good communication. So it's been overall a really good experience so far. And they seem to have a lot of things already in place with like their platform. So as far as the growing pains, it hasn't been quite as intense as the growing pains at the beginning of like GoGoKid,
Yeah.
which was a little bit hectic at first.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit less stressful than when I
Mhm.
started at GoGoKid. So even though it's a new company, it doesn't feel like the startups that I work for in other countries outside of China because
Right.
they have a lot more growing pains that I've experienced with them.
Yes. All right. So I want to go into, let's start with Open English. Now, I
Okay.
know you do not work with them anymore. So just to let everyone know, they're based in South America and they do adults and they have evening hours. So tell us why you applied and why you didn't stay, and tell us about them.
Well, I thought I would try some evening hours. Early morning hours are always tough. So I thought maybe I could sleep in a little bit and split my time, teach some early evening with Open English and teach some morning with China. I thought it would balance well. They teach through Zoom. So it's a lot to manage to be able to, have the slides, and they don't allow a lot of prep time for classes. You're kind of on standby whenever you select your hours, and it will just give you a class like a minute or two before class time. And so you click and go into that class. So you don't necessarily know quite what you're teaching right before. So for me, I like to be able to prepare. So teaching on the fly quite like that, I was not really prepared for, but I did want to try the evening hours and teach in another country. I thought it would be fun to try teaching adults. Just I thought maybe more relaxed, more conversation, just less energy. But what I found, most of the adults don't open their camera.
Oh.
And they also have group classes. So you sometimes might be given a group class or you might get an individual class and you don't necessarily get to pick. It's just whatever the system gives you is what you have. So I had one class that had like 8 different adults and none of them opened their camera. And so it was really hard to know who was talking. And it's hard to talk to people you can't see.
Yeah.
And so I found it just really awkward and uncomfortable that I'm talking to a whole bunch of blank, black screens that I couldn't see. And so it just felt, I just felt uncomfortable, or as I thought I would like it. So I didn't last very long. The pay is definitely not as high as what people are used to with the Chinese companies. It's for sure lower. So I just found it wasn't really worth it. And teaching adults is just not my thing.
Yeah, and you do have a video about it, about why you quit. And just to let my audience know, most of the questions I'm asking her, I already know. She's done videos on everything, and they go into a lot more detail if you want to try her channel. So yeah, anyway, so just as a side note, I am in the process of applying for iTutor. Same thing, they have adults group classes, and I hear you keep your camera off. So I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm going to try it. I've had trouble getting hired with them, but I'll tell everybody about that in a different live stream because I want to focus on you. All right, so let me see if there are, before we move on to the next company, if there are any questions. Let's see. No show. Okay, let's see if there are any questions in the chat. Lexi, how do you keep track of your schedule? Casey wants to know.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've experimented with my schedule a lot, and I actually have some videos that are going to be going live that talk about how I structure my schedule. But I try to keep a consistent schedule between all companies. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are my go-go days. So I don't open at Zebra, I don't open at VIPKID, and that way I don't confuse myself and double book myself. And I keep the same hours. So I'm always opening the same slots at GoGo, and then at Zebra, I open the same exact slots on the different days, on the alternating days. So those are my China hours and they don't change so that I don't forget, unless I'm on vacation and I don't open anything or something. And then my one-on-one hours, I have that 1 hour at the end of my day from 8 to 9 a.m. So that's my one-on-one time. And then I do teach 3 one-on-one classes on Saturdays after my China hours. But yeah, I just try to keep it consistent every week, so that I'm opening the same things at the same company all the time. So I don't confuse myself and double book. Because I know that when teachers balance multiple companies, they think, well, I didn't get booked here, I'll try opening it here. And I just don't really do that. If I have some openings, I have openings, and I make YouTube videos while I'm having a break. But I try to keep it, a set schedule between all the companies.
Yes, and you actually have a video out about why you do 3 hours on the weekend with one-on-one. So speaking of one-on-one, we're going to go ahead and segue into that company. So to let my audience know, they're based in Vietnam. They have that 1 hour that we lost with China. They have that hour. And Vietnam, if I understand, they're 1 hour behind China, right?
I think so.
But then they still have that 1 hour open. And it is one of their PPT slots, right?
Yes,
so they don't mind having people just working that hour. Yeah, and if anyone, also 4 weeks ago, I did a live stream about non-Chinese ESL companies where I explain what one-on-one is. I explain Enkids if anyone wants to go back and watch that. 30 minutes in, I start talking about the non-Chinese ESL companies. All right, so let's start with, how did you hear about one-on-one?
I actually just saw a post in a Facebook group, one of the online ESL Facebook groups, and it was actually from a recruiter, someone who works for one-on-one when they were just starting to kind of add teachers. So I just happened to see the post and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I would love to try teaching outside of China. So I just applied on a whim and was hired.
Okay, so what's the interview process like?
With them, you fill out the application online, and they have they only open their applications, every few months, and then they onboard that group of teachers and they shut everything down. So they only take applications for like a short period of time, like a week or two, which they actually just opened it. So and it probably won't be open for very long because they onboard teachers in small groups so that they don't have teachers sitting around not teaching students. So I really like that, so that they're not overwhelmed with teachers. But you fill out the application, and then it's like the other companies. They give you a lesson to teach, and you teach like a mock class with someone who's pretending to be a child. It's usually one of the people in their office. I don't think they have really teachers who are like mock class mentors. It's usually someone at their home office. So you teach your mock class, and based on how you do on that, they score you, and that determines your pay rate, and that determines if you're hired or not. If you are, then you have like a teacher briefing that you go through, an onboarding process where you have another like a Zoom meeting with them, and they go through all the company policies and answer all your questions. And then you fill out your paperwork, do your contract, and then you're hired. It was fairly short. At the time that I was hired, it only took me about a week or so to get through that. So it was pretty quick.
All right. Well, if anyone, I'll reiterate what she said. They are hiring right now, and they only hire for a short period of time. So there's that. All right. So, well, I already know the answer to this. I was going to ask you how many hours you work, but you basically work 1 hour a day, right? And then 3 on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, or
just on Saturday. I was doing 4 on Saturday, but I've cut it back to just 3. So 3 classes. So that's an hour and a half on Saturdays only. So my goal is to hit 45 classes, because they give, if you teach 45 or more, they give you an extra $1 for that participation, kind of like what VIPKID does. However, they have a really weird thing that if you go over 60 classes, any classes over 60, they don't give you that $1. So you want to keep your classes between 45 and 60. It's really strange. So that's why I structured my schedule where I'm not going over 60 classes a month.
Okay, so all right, so how are the Vietnamese students different from the Chinese students?
They are fairly different. I have found just culturally, everything is a little bit more laid back. I also think because it's a startup, things are just maybe a little less organized. So there are a lot of last minute schedule changes, cancellations. So, and the students just they're not as strict and structured with their classes. So it's more common for them to like not show up. The parents are a lot less involved. Just from my experience, there's not as many overbearing parents. But I will say the pronunciation struggles are really different. So I wasn't quite prepared for some of their pronunciation struggles. They always leave off the S. That is common that they forget that. But what I've learned is they don't have the hard consonant endings in Vietnamese. And so they really have a hard time with those. And they add an S sound. So like dogs is more like dos, and they don't have like the hard consonant. So the biggest difference really was just some of the pronunciation struggles that they have, but it is a lot more laid back.
Right. And you do have a video out about that, about the different pronunciations that you've learned. Okay. So one-on-one are they still going by Zoom? Are they still doing?
They are.
Yeah.
They do not have their own platform. So that is kind of one of the downfalls if you're working with a newer startup company. They communicate through one platform. You have, your portal kind of in another section, and then you do your classes on Zoom. So it's really a lot to manage and go back and forth between. So it can kind of be stressful. And like I said, they are a startup. So what I've learned is things can change. I've woken up, I went to bed, prepped for my classes, woke up, and I have completely different students and lessons. And they switch it out, and that's fine with them. Because if you can choose a guaranteed hour, which is like you are guaranteed to teach or be paid to be on standby. So whatever classes they need you to teach, they just toss those your way. And then you have to open everything. And so it's a lot to manage.
Okay. And that's hard if it's a new company and you don't know the curriculum, like if you've been with a company for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to wing it quite a few times.
Yes. And I want to talk about the guaranteed hour. Now you have a video out that says like they no longer require you to have the guaranteed hour, right?
Right.
So, okay. And I did talk a little bit about this on my live stream 4 weeks ago. Teacher Paige came and gave us a little insight, but for those who weren't at that one, So what would be the advantages and disadvantages of choosing to do a guaranteed hour or not?
Well, the guaranteed hour, you obviously are choosing 1 hour per day on weekdays only. So you're guaranteed to be paid. You're going to teach something, but of course, you may not know what you're teaching until kind of the morning of. So that can be a little stressful, but it is nice to know what you're teaching. You do have to cancel classes. So once you have the guaranteed hour, it's like guaranteed forever. And so if there's a day that I want to take off, I have to submit a cancellation request form. Now, I've never been told that there was any limit on those as long as you're canceling more than 48 hours in advance. Now, if you're canceling within 48 hours, there are limits on their cancellations. But if you're canceling far in advance, you're fine as far as I know, because I've canceled several times and no one has said anything. But it is kind of a pain to have to look through your schedule and go through, and instead of opening the classes you want to teach, you're actually canceling all the classes you don't want to teach. So it's kind of reversed from what you may be used to. But as far as the flexible schedule, it is nice that you can just work whenever. However, I have found that they're not, because they don't have a portal and platform. You kind of do like an Excel spreadsheet for your schedule. They're not great about always checking that spreadsheet and making sure to fill your hours. So those teachers often have to send a message on Slack and say, okay, I have this time open. Do you have a class for me? So the downfall of the not guaranteed hour is just if you're having a really flexible schedule, they might not schedule you with anything. So then you're just having unbooked slots.
Okay, but 48 hours in advance is not bad at all.
No.
It's not like you have to do a week. So yeah, I like flexible schedules. I don't like companies with minimums. I actually shy away from those. But if you could cancel within 48 hours with no penalty, that wouldn't be bad at all. That
No,
sounds good. Yeah.
it's not bad because and I think they've learned that teachers really were used to having a more flexible schedule. And so that's why they kind of added it, because a lot of teachers were not wanting to have a minimum, that they have to teach per day. And some teachers only want to teach, 3 days a week or whatever. So they are working with teachers now. When I was first hired, it was you choose your hour and you stick with it. So yeah, and they do let me switch my hour with the time change, because I've done that. So I've moved my guaranteed hour because they don't do time change, the daylight savings, but we do. So it messes everything up.
Right. I can imagine. Okay. So let's see. Let me see what people are saying in the chat. Again, if you have a question for me or Lexi, make sure that you write in all caps. Let's see. I already know the answer. Danny wants to know if you use Feedback Panda. Yes, she does. You have several videos about that.
I do.
So also, you don't seem to change your background. Does this simplify your life in your classroom?
It does. Yeah, I don't really change my background because I'm just lazy and I don't want to spend the money on it. And because I now teach in different countries, I don't really want anything country specific in my background or holiday specific for one of those countries, just because I'm teaching everywhere. But yeah, I've just kept it really simple. So it has really simplified my life, and I just haven't wanted to do that. And yeah, I'm looking at the questions too. Yes, I am the teacher Lexi on GoGoKid Feedback Panda. That's me.
Okay. So you have some templates out there.
I do.
Yeah.
That's me. That's me.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. Okay. So everybody, if anyone has any more questions about one-on-one, let us know. Let's move to Enkids. All right, so let me let the audience know Enkids is based in Poland, and their hours, well, I'll let you tell that in a minute. I found out about Enkids through Feedback Panda. How did you hear about Enkids?
Actually through another one-on-one teacher. So there's another teacher who taught with me at one-on-one, and we were just talking about the different companies that we taught for, because she taught for quite a few also. And she mentioned InKids, and I had never heard of it. So she told me about it. So I just went ahead and applied. And that was like back in, I think, August. It was months ago. And I didn't hear anything for a really, really long time. So I heard about it from her because she was actually a hired teacher with InKids already.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So Feedback Panda just told their people about it like around, it was December, January. and you could sign up. So I signed up, I haven't heard anything. So maybe that's why you signed up back in August. And you literally just got hired how long ago?
In December.
Okay, so expect if you're going to apply to Enkids that it may take a long time. They're a very new startup in Poland, not a lot of other companies in Poland. I talk a little bit about the CEO in the video I did 4 weeks ago. I did a little research on her, so you can go back and watch that if you want to hear about that. So anyways, let's see. How do you think teaching Polish kids is different from Chinese and Vietnamese kids?
Oh, it's very, very different. And even the InKids lessons and kind of their whole philosophy is different. It's all about conversation. You don't have to follow the lesson plan. You can bring in whatever you want to the lesson. You can just talk for 25 minutes. It is just a conversation practice for these kids. I have found that the kids that I have taught so far, most of them are a little older. So they're more like 9 to 12 is kind of in the age range of the ones that I've taught. I know that they have younger students. I just haven't taught any of them, but they have surprisingly good English. They have English at school. And so they are able to converse pretty well. So they don't need as much like vocabulary help. They sometimes need a little pronunciation or grammar help, but it's all about conversation. So they're really wanting you to just kind of facilitate conversation and just to let them talk as much as possible.
Okay, so tell us about the hiring and the onboarding process. I know it's lengthy.
It took forever. Yeah, I applied and didn't hear anything. It wasn't until I think early November. So from August to November, there was really not much. I made like a little demo video that was me pretending to teach some of the slides that they gave me. And that's what I sent in with my application. That's what they wanted. And then I finally heard back in November and they sent like a module that you would go through. So little videos that you would watch, like a quiz that you would complete. And there were 2 modules, but I got them like a month apart. So they sent them out really slowly. And then after that, I heard nothing for weeks. And then I got an email saying, we would like to go ahead and finish your onboarding process. And I thought, okay, sure. I'd kind of forgotten about it because I'd gotten busy with some of my other companies. So that was, we did like it was like a Zoom meeting. There were several new teachers and they did kind of a whole onboarding process after they had sent us some more material to go through. Then we had like a big meeting where they went through all the company policies and went through that. And then after that, they said we could start opening slots in our schedule. They wanted us to teach kind of like a demo class to an actual student first, which I did. I had a demo class, but I never got any feedback on it, which is kind of what I was expecting. So I wasn't sure at that point if I was actually hired. So I had to send them a message asking, am I truly hired? Did it go okay? And then they eventually sent me my contract like several weeks later. So for the longest time, I wasn't, I was opening slots, but I didn't even have a contract. So yeah, it is really slow. Yeah, very slow.
Okay, I think the answer is no, but I'll ask, is Feedback Panda related to Enkids?
No.
They just use their platform to advertise, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Reporting a problem for the slide. Okay. Oh, she's asking you get an extra 50 cents for reporting problems on the slide, right?
Yeah. If there's like an error in the curriculum, you can report it in their Slack group, which I think they're actually getting ready to move to a Facebook teacher group or something. But yeah, you can send them the screenshot of the error and report that there was an error, and you get paid for that apparently.
Oh, okay. So everyone's really going to be looking if they're getting paid.
Yeah.
So Danny also wants to know any required hours at Enkids.
No, they haven't said anything about that. And again, it's funny because the people there are really nice and the staff are really sweet and helpful, but it just seems like a lot of details haven't quite been ironed out yet because they are so new. So there's a lot of questions that I've asked that they've been like, we need to decide on that. So they don't have a minimum hours. However, what I've learned is the schedule is not nearly as flexible as kind of what I thought. They're a little bit more like one-on-one, that when you open your time slots, they kind of expect that you're going to open those same slots for weeks on end. So if you get a regular student, they ask you, can you teach at this time every week? You know, the student wants to be a regular student. So it's not a flexible, you kind of open here and there. You're not going to get students if you don't have a pretty set schedule. And they want you to open at least a month in advance because they want to schedule a regular with you every week at that same time. So they're like one-on-one that you have to like cancel the slot. So if you get a regular, like I just got a regular on Thursdays at 1 p.m. my time, and there's one Thursday in the month of February that I can't teach, so I had to just let them know I'm not around for that Thursday. So it is different. So it's not a minimum hours, but when you get a regular, they expect that you will have that consistent time for them.
And that's hard a month out, knowing your
It
schedule, especially
is.
during the day. That's when you might schedule appointments, at least for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what is their cancellation policy if you do have to cancel?
I know there are penalties if you're canceling, within 24 hours, and I don't remember what all the penalties are. If you're canceling, I think it's probably kind of like one-on-one. If you give them a couple days notice, there's not really a penalty. They've been pretty flexible. They just schedule that student with a sub.
Mhm.
So they have a spot in their Slack group where they ask for subs. So you can volunteer. I volunteered to sub for a class once, kind of at the last minute. So they do pull in subs at the last minute, but I haven't seen their full cancellation policy. Things are still kind of in flux with them because I taught for like 2 or 3 weeks before I ever even got a contract.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been really different. So when you work for a startup, you have to be really flexible.
Yes, you do. I mean, I just know from GoGoKid, I applied to Native too. I never even made a profile for them. Yes, new companies, changes.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. So it sounded like from the research I did on Enkids that like since it's such a startup, even the CEO is very involved. Was she the one that interviewed you?
She is the one that did my onboarding. She,
Okay.
along with they have kind of a mentor teacher who's American teacher. And I guess she's been with them since kind of the beginning, but they were both doing my onboarding. And so she's very active in the Slack channel. I had asked the questions about the payment and how do I know if I get the incentives or not. And she was the one that actually responded to me. So yeah, she's super involved and she's really, really sweet. But I just think because they're trying to grow and there's so many changes, it's just hard for them to keep up,
Mhm.
not to mention the teachers to try to keep up. So they just I think they're often kind of overwhelmed trying to keep up with everything.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Oh, so let me check the chat. And
Okay,
again, if
I'll look through
anyone,
it.
yeah, if anyone just got here, all caps, if you have a question. Um, yeah, let's
Oh, it
see.
says, how do you teach with a 1-year-old at home? Well, I start really early when she's still asleep. And then I have breakfast prepped for my kids. And my older ones, my teenager, will actually go get my 1-year-old and they all go start eating while I finish up. So I am able to, because my older kids help out with the little ones and make sure that they stay upstairs. I actually teach in my basement. So that way my kids are on a whole different floor so that they're not coming down here and it's not loud. So without my teenagers, I would struggle.
Yes, I teach in my basement too, popular place
Yeah,
to teach.
it's quiet. It's nice.
All right. Well, if anyone has more questions about Enkids, write them in the chat in all caps. So let's quickly, this isn't a company you work for, but you just know a little bit about them. Let's talk about Kidtopy. Did I pronounce that right?
I'm not sure. I think so. I think
Okay.
so.
So they're Vietnamese. And tell me what you know about them and how do you hear about them?
Well, I actually was connected with another teacher who teaches for them. She actually teaches, I think, for both one-on-one and Kidtopy because she wanted to try out the Vietnamese companies and compare them. They are a little different. They have their own platform already. So it seems like they're a little further along than one-on-one. So, they offer the one-on-one lessons, 25 minutes with kids. So it's really similar to a lot of the other companies, but they do have their own platform, which is kind of attractive. I've learned that with startups, they try to get by, piecing things together, and that is really hard. So if you're able to teach for a startup that already kind of has some things together, that can be a huge. Seems like their pay is pretty similar to one-on-ones. It's not quite as high as China's, but it might be a little bit more competitive than one-on-ones pay. Um, so it's fairly similar to all the other companies out there. But in talking with her, they're not hiring right now, and I don't know when they plan to. One-on-one is hiring like this week. Kidtopy has not announced when they're going to open hiring, and Enkids, I think they said they were opening their hiring again maybe in April. So maybe some of the teachers who have applied will maybe be able to go through the onboarding, hopefully in April. So
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
yeah.
All right, let's see if we have anything else in the chat. Any other questions? Um, let's see. I don't think so. All right, I'll maybe give people a few more minutes if they want to
Okay.
ask questions about any of the companies, one-on-one Enkids, or even the one that you tried and didn't like, Open English.
Open English, yeah.
Zebra, which is China-based, she got a
Right.
higher base pay. Any questions about any of these? All caps in the chat, but yeah, so while I'm waiting for people to see if they have any questions, do you have referral codes for all of these companies, or do they do it the same way VIPKID and GoGoKid where you help someone through the process?
Yeah, they do. I don't have a code for InKids. I think you just kind of give them the person's name when you're going through the hiring process. But for one-on-one and for Zebra, they do give referral codes for teachers and allow teachers to coach their referrals through the process. And I have helped teachers at both one-on-one and Zebra. I've worked with them to get hired. So, and that's why I have a lot of videos on my channel talking about specifically the one-on-one hiring process. And I'm currently making some for the Zebra hiring process. And I've just started working on some more InKids videos because I'm so new there. I don't have a lot of the answers for InKids, working to get those. So as soon as I learn more, I'm going to make some more about them. But yes, they do the referrals where teachers get paid to help other teachers get hired.
Okay, so of course I will leave your channel link in the description, and then people can go to your channel and get use your referral links or codes for these companies. I already sent Enkids an email, but I hope I can add later. I'll add your name.
Oh,
Let's see.
you.
See if there's anyone else. Lexi, Casey wants to know if you have a favorite company.
I do. Lately, my favorite has been Zebra, just because it's very simple to teach for them. You don't have props. You don't have to use a reward system, which saves me a ton of time and expense trying to make those and put those together. And the lessons are just really short, simple. They have fun dialogue. The characters are animated. So I find it's really fun. And then my other favorite, I do enjoy teaching at GoGoKid just because the lessons I think are fun. And they're not quite as long as the VIPKID lessons. There's just not as much content, so it's easier to finish on time. And then I have enjoyed InKids because I just get to chat with the student. It's all about conversation. So that's a whole different feeling, to not feel pressured to finish anything. So that has been really fun. But of course, I only have one student right now that I'm teaching. So I would really have to teach more students to find out how much I enjoy it across a lot of students. And then one-on-one, I enjoy being able to teach in another country. Again, with the startups, there's just a lot of stress, and you have to be really flexible because things change at the last minute. So InKids and one-on-one add a lot of stress that the Chinese companies don't add because they're just a little more organized than some of the other startups. Yeah.
Right. Okay, very good. Let's see if we have any more questions. This is great information. Thank you, Laura. Good. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. I don't have any more questions. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
No problem. I know you're busy, so I'm really glad you could take the time. And I also, Lexi will also post this video on her channel too.
Yeah.
All right.
I will.
All right. Well, thanks again. And I will see you next time. Bye, everybody. I will go live again next week. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.